Hello. Um, I'm recording this video because I've seen a few David Icke I've seen a few David Icke films on the internet, and I had an experience very similar to the experience that he talks about. When about however long ago it was, 25 years ago, he had this experience. May even be longer than that now, actually, when he was a BBC presenter, and he had this experience where sort of the ground was pulled out from underneath his feet, and he claimed that he was the son of God, all this sort of stuff. And I've watched films by David Icke, and he is fascinating. He really is, and I think he's got some very interesting ideas and some very interesting, powerful theories. And I was watching a film from just now, and he was talking with Philip Schofield. He was on a television program, Philip Schofield being interviewed in the morning, and when you listen to him, to me, I'm not very scared, and I'm not saying that I don't believe what he says, or lend any credibility to what he says, not at all. But I don't. I think I would have felt very afraid, and maybe even his film would have prompted me to wake up a bit, if I would have watched his films before I had actually already woken up, because I know what he means when he talks about waking up and seeing a different world from the world that you knew before, and he's talking about putting together the pieces. But he says that he spent the last 25 years piecing together the jigsaw so that he can understand what's going on, and how there's this great big conspiracy, and there's 3 or 4 or 5 families controlling everything and keeping the rest of the population blind. When I first woke up, I smashed my phone. The girl that I was seeing at the time thought I was mad because, I'd smashed my phone up, and a lot of people around me thought that I was mad at the time because I was ranting on about, I'd never seen things which had always been around me before. I'd never really noticed them, and I started seeing all this symbolism, which had always been there. Symbols on everything, signs and everything. And when you first wake up, you just think that's weird, because there's pentagrams and pentagons all over the place. Not to mention the building, called the Pentagon. And yeah, the pyramid on the dollar, with the eye on the top, and the fact that everyone says Amen, which is akin to Amen-Ra, the Egyptian god. You kind of, all these things fall into place that you never saw before. But to say that there are 4 or 5 families controlling us all, possibly I might have tended to go down some kind of conspiracy theory route, if you like, and I think it's kind of true to say that there's people up top consciously making things happen in government, but it's not so simple, I think, as to sort of wrap it up into this neat theory that David Icke's got about lizards and aliens controlling us. Although, I'm not really, and I really mean this, I keep my mind open. I'm not going against what David Icke has said, but I have my own take on what he has kind of wrapped up in this theory of lizards and evil families controlling us all. Now I completely see what he means. I've only got like 10 minutes, so I'm going to have to try and put this into a nutshell. I can completely see what he means when he's talking about, our five senses, and the electromagnetic waves come in through these five senses, and our brain processes it all, and we get, that's how we understand the world around us. I completely see that. I wouldn't necessarily say on the basis of that this world is an illusion. I'd say that that's kind of how we're built as human beings, and that's what we've got to work with, and we're here, and we need to make the best of kind of our life, knowing that and being aware of that, and being aware of kind of what's beyond our immediate perceptions. But you see, there's something else which David Icke doesn't have in his videos, and it's this. David Icke talks about us being limited to kind of seeing the world through our five senses. Okay, so the material world, the world that you perceive, yes, true, but actually you see the world with your eyes. You've got the sun. You've got the sun in the sky, and the light comes onto objects, and it bounces off objects, and it hits your eyes, and that's how you see the material world. Yeah. Well, as human beings, objects are not the only things that we see. We also see things called ideas. We also see things with our mind. I'm talking to you now, and you're listening to the words that I'm saying. But it's your mind. If you can understand what I'm saying, it's because your mind can see what I'm saying, if I can use that language. I'm communicating ideas to you, and the ideas are real things. They are real things, and in fact a lot of philosophers, thinkers, kind of learned people, if you like, or just people that open their mind, if you like, they talk about another world even. If you get the book, I'm trying to remember the name of the book, it's by a guy called Roger Penrose, who's a mathematician physicist. He talks about there being, we could describe three worlds. So you have the physical world, which we see with our eyes and touch and feel, which is in time. But then you've got the kind of mental world, the world of ideas, which your eyes, not your eyes, the eye of your mind sees, if you like, call it that. So even if I was blind and I was deaf, and potentially I might be able to, see this world of ideas, and it's this world of ideas, although it's it's, you can see it, I can see it, if we use our minds, it's eternal. Ideas are not subject to decay, they're not subject to time, they occupy a different dimension, if you like. And then you've also got this world of kind of mathematical forms as well. So you've got the ideas, and then you've got kind of, I don't know, where squares come from and circles come from, because you never find a perfect square in this world, you never find a perfect circle in this world, and you can't, if you look around for something called a number, you can't find numbers in this world, but yet we use numbers. We kind of, I'm holding up 5 fingers, so I'm saying that I'm applying the number 5 to my 5 fingers, but try finding the number 5 itself in this world, you won't find it. Do you see what I mean? Just try thinking about that for a minute. 5 fingers, 5 senses, but try finding the number 5 itself in this world, you won't find it, because the number 5 doesn't exist, but it does exist in this other world of kind of numbers and things. Do you see what I mean? So I mean, if that doesn't strike you as strange and weird and kind of David Icke-esque, but I'm not talking about reptiles or anything here, I'm just talking about another world with ideas in it, which is not physical and is eternal, but you've got it in your head. And these things are coming from, this sort of language and talk is coming from Plato, a Greek philosopher who lived 3,000–4,000 years ago. But when you, and kind of since that time, people have developed an understanding of ourselves as human beings, how we actually see all these different dimensions. So your mind actually sees a dimension which is not physical, and there are other dimensions you experience as a human being which are not physical either, really. Like, David Icke talks about how he followed his heart, and he left the BBC and he went on this journey. He describes it because he followed his inner tutor, his intuition. So that, again, that's not really mind, but that's something else he's experiencing, which is kind of beyond what you see. So I kind of see what David Icke says, but I've got 4 minutes, so I'm going to move away a bit from because sort of my experience when I really acutely became aware that it's not all just about physical objects, that as human beings we experience things beyond the physical realm, and we touch on realms, which we experience realms every day, where it's through our intuition or our mind, which are not dependent on time and on physical objects. So you don't have to wait until you die to experience the non-physical. You're actually experiencing it now, if you're awake to it, and not many people are. Although most of our scientists on this planet are, and I don't doubt that most of our politicians on this planet are, people that create entities, false entities, which are companies. Companies are essentially an idea. They are a real thing. They're in the sense of an idea, and they exist in the world of idea. But if you try and look for the physical thing, which is Asda, or which is Sainsbury's itself, not the things which are attributed to Asda or Sainsbury's or the companies, because the company is an idea, you see, but it's a real thing in the world of ideas that's really been created by Companies House. And so there is a kind of, there's like two dimensions existing in parallel, and the people that kind of know about ideas and how to create things on the level of ideas are doing it, and really kind of living in that world. And a lot of people who aren't aware of entities and companies and ideas and that sort of level of reality are nonetheless subject to it, because they're subject to all these companies. So in a sense the control thing is right, but it's because of people's lack of awareness, really, that they're subject to these companies and these processes that have been set up, and they can't actually positively take part in it. It's because they lack the education and the awareness, basically, because they only work at the level of the five senses. They don't work on the level of the mind, which is why we're all sent to school, so that we can actually operate at that level as well, so that you don't just interact on the level of the senses, which is where most people are. You interact on the level of the mind and the spirit as well. Okay, so conspiracy theories. I've got 2 minutes. Conspiracy theories. He talks about like a small group of people controlling us all. Well, things from my point of view are a lot more complicated than that. What was the example he gave? He gave the example that the pharmaceutical industry is purposely creating diseases and purposely poisoning us all and all this sort of stuff. I don't think it's as simple as that. I don't think it's a small group of individuals. I agree that a lot of kind of the companies that have been set up, what they're doing is quite damaging, but I think it's just, it's a system that's gradually grown, and it's turned into a leviathan. If you kind of create something with a group of people and policies, sometimes it can get so complex, this system, that it even kind of grows into this thing which is, it almost takes on a life of its own, and the constituent elements of the thing, as well as what it's doing, it's so big. If you think of the massive pharmaceutical companies, people in those companies need the jobs, otherwise they can't survive. And there's a whole big industry built up around the outside of that. So you wouldn't want to pull the plug on it quickly. I call it like a big monster that's been created and kind of gets out of control. But it's not because one malicious person is causing it to happen. It's because the thing has kind of taken a life on its own. I also speak of like the oil tanker effect. So if you've got a massive oil tanker going in one direction and suddenly you realise that it's going in the wrong direction, you can't stop it. You have to kind of kill the engines to stop it and turn it round. And then, of course, the ultimate thing is to dismantle the oil tank, and I've got 2 seconds and I'm out.